The Reitho TD 3.8 is a pure luxury dream speaker, where the manufacturer have spared no expense trying to create an eye-watering luxury piece of music art. Just how insane it is, you will learn in this Dream Speaker review that had the Silverback listening team feel extremely excited.
Some of the best, or maybe the best I've heard.
It just looks mean, like it's gonna blow your head off.
It demands some attention. The finish is impeccable.
Hvis jeg kun skulle høre rockmusik, så ville jeg gerne kun have dem her.
Personally, I've been looking forward to this ever since reviewing the Little GD 1.2, as well as the Reitho-designed Scansonic speakers using the same design principles, but in a more affordable package. The GD range tested here is Reitho, when there's no limits. It's a speaker for the financially independent that appreciate luxury. So let's find out where this €100,000 Rolls-Royce takes us musically, shall we? Here you are, immersed in another Dream Speaker review here on Stjernholm Reviews, the independent audiophile entertainment channel that brings you the honest reviews and breaks for nobody. All we ask in return is that you ever so gently tap those like and subscribe buttons that will animate me to bring you even more awesome audiotainment content. Have a look at the new link tree in the description that contains all the goodies like links to the Sonic Snacks playlist made available for your streaming service of choice, or how about the new Make Hi-Fi Great Again Facebook group, as well as anything else you need in order to hang out with Stjernholm Reviews, including contact information for personal AV consulting, calibration services. Simply use the link tree that is your smart shortcut to everything Stjernholm Reviews, right there in the description. In the mammoth undertaking of the Dream Speaker review series, the carefully assembled listening team and I are on a journey to evaluate some of the finest speaker offerings in the market from brave companies willing to put their best efforts in front of us without any demands. We seek out interesting speakers that we feel offer something unique and ask the vendors to review them. Interestingly, many of them disappear under a smokescreen of excuses, while the ones that believe they have a great product, I reckon, naturally have no problems receiving a fair and honest team review, displaying different opinions and experiences. The elite listening team gives you an unprecedented insight and nuance, comparing all these masterful offerings in the same room with the same ears that do not always agree, while we celebrate the love for music and the state of art in speaker design. Some of the more conservative vendors have problems with the political incorrect entertainment format, and others simply want to control the narrative, plain and simple. We want to experience the speakers, set up and feel them as music communicators before taking any interest in company or engineering. In that order, mind you, trying to sift all the bull away first. It also means with speakers appearing here, they are being from companies that agree to those terms and let come what may, knowing that when they try hard, we try harder to do them full justice. That's the deal, and that's the only deal. Loudspeakers are a series of compromises. What compromises are the least important ones to you should determine what kind of speaker you are looking for. In my experience, one listener's negative could be another's positive. Even if you can't afford any of the speakers presented here in the series, you should take interest, as innovations that will set their mark on the future have their way of trickling down to more affordable speakers, but they get created here to start with. So let's find out a bit more about the company and where Reitho actually came from, shall we? The owner of the Reitho brand, Dantax, was founded around 71 by John Jensen. One man and a great sense of wheeling and dealing established the company. In the beginning, loudspeaker parts was brought from other manufacturers and then assembled by Dantax, producing primarily affordable speakers and lots of different models over the years, some of which are pretty memorable for anyone growing up with hi-fi. Among the staggering amount of models, the company have produced a speaker like the Tube from the 90s that was visually striking, or how about the JJ Design series designed by the world-famous designer Jacob Jensen, or the Scanspeak series that put their mark on face-correct speaker design, just to mention a couple. In 1977, Dantax took over the Scanspeak factory, and the joint expertise of Dantax and Scanspeak resulted in the production of a wide range of excellent loudspeaker models over the subsequent years. During the same period, Dantax added the Scansonic brand to its portfolio. In 2009, a new era began as Dantax took over the well-respected Raito loudspeaker project that went bankrupt. This new adventure was another significant milestone in the history of Dantax, culminating here with the development of the TD series and the more affordable X series range. Most recently, a new range developed and built by Raito called the Q series have been marketed globally under the Scansonic HD brand name, and they are some good-looking ladies. Check out the Q3, the Q8 and the Q10 models that joins the MB series that I have previously had the pleasure of reviewing here on the channel. Check it out and see how far we have come since then. The first thing you will notice is these babies come in a wooden transport crate on wheels.
Really spectacular, spared no expense.
Professional, very cool stuff, you know. Boom.
No doubt, this is a very special passive speaker with impeccable finish and unique materials. The pair sent to us here for review was the Mirror Shine black lacquer finish, but Raito offers beautiful wood finish as well as custom colors per customer request. Of course, it's a Rolls. Right? Personally, I've never seen a black lacquer finish this shiny. It's really like a mirror. The TD 3.8 sits in the middle of the TD range. Given its size, it's actually the most popular model in the range. Even though the price suggests that this must be a very large speaker, it's really not. Seeing it live surprises many people as the cabinet is really slim and it has this elegant shape that is really hard to capture on film. The TD 3.8 stands 142 centimeters tall and has a 44 centimeter wide front baffle that shrinks to less than 10 centimeters in the back. And boy, are they good looking or what?
The design of the speakers are definitely still elegant, but it's also very industrial with the black and the silver. It also kind of complements the fact that it's a beautiful speaker because it is so compact and it just looks mean, like it's gonna blow your head off. But it just complements the speaker really well with the color scheme and everything.
In the back, we find the rear firing ports, beautifully encapsulated by these great-looking aluminium profiles, giving them a really distinct look from the back too. The speaker terminals, though, seems to me as a overlooked area. They're not very big and can be hard to tighten hard enough. In short, they are not exactly oozing the same Rolls-Royce feeling as the rest of the speaker and finish. It's a funny little quirk. While down there,
even the jumpers included in the loudspeakers are from Nordost, because we think you're worth it.
The integrated adjustable feet looks and feels really classy and is isolated from the floor via a ceramic ball inside.
Spared no expense.
Then there's the party piece of the TD range, the very unique and madly expensive to build drivers.
Which is a sandwich cone construction of aluminum base with a ceramic coating on it, and then we have tantalum. And finally, it's possible to get bigger diamonds than your wife, because the drive units actually has diamond coating on top. And the reason for this many different types of layers is that we use the contrast between the masses, that when you put them together, you achieve perfect stiffness and damping at the same time. It weighs very, very little for a cone. The diamond coating is made with a technical institute in Aarhus in Denmark. where they have very sophisticated machines that can fire diamond atoms at light speed. And in that process, it forms artificial diamond. A drive unit like the 8-inch has almost 2 carats of artificial diamond, and the small ones about 1 carat.
Indeed, jewelry in its own right.
The TD 3.8 is not especially easy to drive. Around 80 Hz, it dips to under 2 ohms, requiring some serious and solid amplification to be explored fully. Listening team member Martin and I found out the hard way when we took it to the edge with the Cincinnati Pops version of Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture, using the house reference New Prime Evolution 2 amplifiers capable of delivering peak power in excess of 800 watts at 4 ohms, resulting in sounding like this.
You're gonna have to use something a lot stronger. What do you suggest?
Well, say hello to the 24,000 euro, the Gryphon Diablo 300, that for the past 10 years, more or less, have been reference for integrated amplifiers, kindly made available to us by the Gryphon for this review. In short, there's no doubt that the TD series represent unique engineering and pursues the best by throwing a lot of money at the no-compromise materials. But will it translate to awesome music experiences? Now we combined it with the amplifier Playmate that should fit its league and top-notch cables, so let the listening sessions commence. While owning a piece of luxury like this in itself must evoke feelings of greatness, it needs an amp and a source to deliver music. With the amplification being covered by the Gryphon, we got all the power we need, even during the most extreme loads that the speaker can evoke on the amp. Cables used for all hookups was from German Inakustik, the reference Air series.
Und das ist die absolute Referenz.
Using air as an insulator. We used the Cocktail Audio X45 Pro hooked up using USB to the excellent optional high-end DAC module in the Diablo 300, with the X45 Pro being utilized as a Roon endpoint, but also for direct playback of DSD files. Setting up, I experimented a lot with the placement of the speakers in the listening room, and it quickly became clear that the Raido sound was pretty bass-heavy. Moving the speakers out like 3 feet from the back wall did not compensate enough to get a neutral-sounding bass response. The speakers do not necessarily require toe-in, but here I found a gigantic soundstage with a little toe in, so it became the default setup for the sessions. The speakers worked hard over a 4-day period with no one home in order to make sure they were ready for the listening sessions as they came straight from the factory. The soundstage presented was definitely something that got all the team members really excited.
Nice spatial imaging and soundstage, pinpoint accuracy, and speakers disappear.
The imaging, the 3D imaging is absolutely fantastic. That's my major take back from these speakers, a huge soundstage.
I really like how the sound is so immersive. The sound picture, it's very wide, it's very tall. When I listen to music, the speakers just disappear.
I experimented with room correction using the Linkdorf TDI 3400, utilized as a digital room correction processor, and ran a couple of single-point frequency response measurements in the listening position. Those measurements kind of confirms what we hear. Here, the unprocessed response that we could call a smiley curve response with a heavy weight in the bass, putting those two 8-inch woofers hard at work. Here you see the same measurement after room perfect room correction is applied that seek to preserve the sound of the speakers but correcting the effects of the room and placement. The result is a smoother low-end response and a slight roll-off in the higher frequencies, but we still have an excess of about 6 dB of extra gain in the bass region.
Yalla boom.
Boom, yeah. I understand boom.
That's quite a bit.
Bada boom.
We did not use this setup for the listening evaluation though, in order to preserve the cleanest signal paths possible to the Diablo amp. Instead, I gave the option to the listening team to hear the speakers in both ways, compensating in Roon's DSP module using EQ for a more natural bass response and a slight musical roll-off in the top end to be in line with other listening sessions that have not utilized room correction as such in general.
Even with what we rolled off now, there's tons of bass still, and I prefer it this way. You could even maybe take a little bit more off, because it's very heavy, which again, it's something that kind of distracts me when I'm listening to the type of music that I listen to. I'm sure it would be super nice if you listen to something like EDM. Oh my God! Or like just house music, or even like some like heavy rock.
Taking out some of the bass also gave the speaker more headroom. The bass correction and high-end roll-off was clearly preferred by all listening team members, except Marcus, that just loved the Raito's big bass.
The bass was punchy, right in the stomach, right in the guts, really round.
Nice, firm buttocks.
Lars was actually not given the choice to hear the speakers without the EQ, as he had a limited time available on the day. Based on his testimony, I reckon that it also worked for him.
There's nothing not to like about these speakers. From the lowest to the highest, everything sounds really, really good. Very nice resolution, great, relaxed, transparent sound. On the basics, great speaker. If I then add some of the music we heard, some of the really complex instrumentation, you can say, when we heard some of the magic flute, the female voice, it was flawless. It was perfect.
Bjarke even preferred a couple of more dB shaven off in the high-frequency roll-off, in line with his young and superior extended frequency hearing capabilities.
The top end, very smooth, very airy, but still it could be crisp, where the singer had like a certain voice where it would be crispy. It could be crispy. I thought that it was a bit too high in certain areas, and so I had it to kind of roll off, because it was a bit like fatiguing for my ears. So I just rolled that off a little bit at the high end, which just made the high end more smooth and just all around better, more comfortable, especially for like longer sittings.
There's nothing wrong per se with having a flat response in the high end, especially not with speakers in this price range, where it's safe to assume that the buyers must primarily be people in their later years with accumulated wealth, as well as slightly rolled off hearing in the highest frequencies. The extra bass also means that the bass drivers must work harder. Listening team member Sebastian and I both noticed this. In practical terms, without any correction, the speakers could feel uncomfortably pushed, delivering around 95 dB peak SPL in the listening position 9 feet from the speakers. The 1812 Overture easily calls for 25 dB extra peak headroom, as demonstrated here, where Bjarke is listening at a comfortable average listening level. We agreed that there was probably not 5 dBs more available, meaning that listeners would be forced to play the more quiet part significantly lower to preserve the necessary headroom. Again, if you play way more dynamically compressed music like Marcus, that had the chance to hear both the DALI Epicor 11 and the Raito TD 3.8 side by side, and he hands down preferred the Raito with his EDM tunes, remember? So how big an issue this might be in real life really depends on your music preference and average listening levels. If it's an issue, you should opt for a bigger, more powerful Raito like the staggering TD6 that brings in 4 more 8-inch drivers. Now let's visit the listening sessions and the initial reactions to give you a feel for the different music played, so you can put the listening team assessments into more perspective. Carsten arrived on the day feeling in the mood for some old school heavy.
There is no time of people's sake.
Kæft, mand. Det er bare direkte. Du får køle lige i hovedet. Det er da helt vildt til rockmusik, det her. Det er sgu da en fornøjelse. Jeg tror, det er lang tid siden, jeg har hørt de numre her, med især Humble Pie det første, med sådan en gang entusiasme.
Lars, he played a variety of favorites in his shorter than usual session. Bjarke was enjoying many of his current favorites, mostly mellow tunes spanning 4 decades. When he's been through those, he usually kindly asks me to play some cool stuff, where I pick some random favorites and rant on forever. Sebastian, on the other hand, ended up not playing that much music, feeling a bit uninspired, but went to nerd mode, trying to extract more performance using biamping and DSP on the speakers.
Definitely good sounding. Audiophile, hi-fi sound with a little boomy bass and top end that is raised. It's quite typical for the voicings of many speakers. It comes down to taste, but leave me with missing something. It didn't want me to put the next song.
So let's try to sum up the impressions a bit. It's clear that Carsten, Lars and Bjarke really liked the Raito sound. Carsten especially appreciated the bite and lack of unnecessary cream that to him made the speaker feel very direct and raw, presenting the music as is in your face. Lars and Bjarke concluded that it was the best speakers they have heard so far.
Jeg ved godt, det er lidt et claim, men det er de bedste højttaler, jeg indtil videre har hørt. De spiller fandme godt. They are not of approval.
Compromises that springs to mind with these speakers?
Not anything I can think of. I must say they sound outstandingly good. And again, some of the best, or maybe the best I've heard. It's fantastic sound.
Especially impressed with the ability to totally disappear and present a fantastic soundstage. I feel very comfortable in the mid-range with the TD 3.8, and I love the dynamic, clear and crisp presentation that is served with a lovely punch as well as the top end. When playing at moderate levels, listening casually around the room or during activities, that extra bass have a nice loudness effect, resulting in a full sound in the room. I feel I can see a clear line here through the music selections, where Carsten rocked away with old and thinner sounding rock. The bass and the dry, clear mid-range combined with a bit of lean-back presentation is clearly an advantage there. It gives a very good in-your-face experience that is also suited for Marcus, that took full advantage of the full bass pressure with his EDM jams. Bjarke's selection is kind of in line with Carsten's, but in a totally different style, but also liking that dry mid-range and crisp top end and the detailed bass. Lars got soft knees after some opera.
The female voice from the Magic Flute,
Die Zauberflöte, der heile Rache kocht in.
Thank you. So voices, fantastic resolution, precision, great dynamics. If you take the lower range, the bass and so on, extremely punchy, very precise, fast. We played some Metallica, fantastic punch in the kick drum.
Based on the available evidence, I sum up all the impressions defining a relatively compact floor-standing luxury speaker for the audiophile who demands the finest things and something truly special in life. The room size, placement, listening preference, and music taste should determine if the TD 3.8 is adequate in terms of raw performance for you. And here the bigger sisters in the family are ready to step in if more is needed, or less for that matter. The sound it brought to the room here was a very holographic soundstage, making the speakers invincible.
It's just one big sound image. It's both very wide and very tall, and like the voices are just like it's just right there. It's as close as you get to perfect. It's really, really good.
A punchy, dry sound, doing especially well with rock, opera, as well as EDM. That crisp and dynamic mid-range really brings out the music. For lower sound level music consumption, we found the added bass and top end to be a good thing, while it needs to be a bit compensated for more neutrality, seeking focused listening. Which brings us to the noisy elephant in the room. And let's be honest here, luxury is a statement. You're not just buying sound here. You're buying diamonds, exotic cables inside, and something not many others are able to own. It's just like owning a Rolls. You don't need it per se just to have wheels to get around, but the feeling inside, the materials used, and the attention to detail is impeccable and an object of desire and pleasure. It's a statement of success, allowing you to show love for human craftsmanship over and beyond. The TD series speakers bring some bragging rights, being a truly unique speaker system that does not compromise on the exotic materials. The 100% hand-built building process
by real people
requires a lot of time and effort, resulting in a price tag for the TD 3.8 of €80,000. Yes, that's for the black lacquer finish.
And not to forget, diamonds.
If you want the walnut, pearl, or personalized color options, and that you want with speakers like this, of course, the asking price is $100,000. On top of this, you need to account for great amplification that eats tough loads for breakfast too. And while at it, to ensure perfect results in the room, use a consultant before and after to make sure you get precisely what you dreamt of and that there's enough of it. I travel all over Europe as well as providing online consulting when adequate. If not ready to spend quite that pile of money, look at the Raido Sound Cousins, the Q series under the Scansonic HD brand, looking very attractive at €11,000 for the flagship Q10. Boy, do we need to review that one. Stand by for the pros, the cons, and the Dream Speaker review score. And remember, you will know everything when you just listen. Meanwhile, if lusting for more Dream Speaker team reviews, check out the playlist link in the description to get you there in no time. Tap! Thank you for watching and see you soon.
Everybody get ready. It's time to rock steady. It's ba-ba-boom time. Don't lose the beat now. Just lift your head now. It's Festival 5. It's the year. You hear the people